Hello, dear friends, music enthusiasts and inspirational stories. Welcome to or return to our channel where we embark on a journey to explore the life of a music legend, Paul McCartney, former member of the Beatles, who wrote immortal melodies that shaped a generation. From hidden pain to the pinnacle of glory, Paul's story will take us through deep emotions. Guys, if you find this story interesting, don't forget to hit the bell and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. Let's get started. Paul McCartney, born on June 18, 1942 in Walton, Liverpool, England, is one of the most influential artists in music history. But behind the halo are deep pains that shaped his personality and career. One of the greatest tragedies in Paul's life was the loss of his first wife, Linda McCartney, to breast cancer in 1998. Linda was not only his partner, but also his soulmate, his bandmate in Wings, and the inspiration for many of his hits, including Maybe I'm Amazed and My Love. They met in 1967 at a London club, and Linda became the center of Paul's emotional world. When Linda was diagnosed with cancer in 1995, Paul spent every possible moment with her, canceling several shows to care for her. However, when Linda died at the age of 56, Paul fell into a deep depression. He once said that he felt like he had lost half his soul. And there were nights when he sat in his Sussex home, hugging Linda's guitar and crying, trying to come to terms with the loss. Paul rarely spoke publicly about this pain in the early years, but in a 2001 interview, he admitted that he had to learn to live without Linda, something he never thought he could do. Another pain that Paul kept hidden for many years was his guilt and regret over the breakup of the Beatles in 1970. As one of the band's key members, Paul was often blamed for instigating the split, especially after he publicly announced his departure and sued the remaining members to protect his song rights. The tension with John Lennon, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr left Paul feeling lonely and misunderstood. He once said that there were days when he would sit alone in the recording studio, listen to old Beatles demos and cry, wondering what else he could have done to keep the group together. He kept this pain to himself, not wanting to show weakness to the public, but in his 2021 book, The Lyrics, 1956 to the Present, he revealed that the breakup of the Beatles was a wound that never fully healed. He said that he had lost not only a band, but also his closest friends, and that feeling haunted him for decades. This pain was further deepened when John Lennon was assassinated in 1980. Paul and John had had major disagreements, but they had begun to mend their relationship before John died. Paul once shared that he wished he could tell John that he loved him again. Once, during a memorial concert for John in 1981, Paul had to stop in the middle of Yesterday because he could not hold back tears when remembering his old friend. He hid his pain from the public, maintaining a positive facade, but those close to him said he would often visit John's old apartment in New York, standing quietly in front of the Dakota and reminiscing about their writing days together. These pains, though kept secret for many years, shaped Paul into a more sensitive artist, whose songs were deeply personal and full of loss. Paul McCartney's career was a journey spanning more than 6 decades, with resounding successes and heartbreaking failures, reflecting his unwavering dedication to music. Starting from his early days with the Beatles, Paul helped create a musical revolution in the 1960s. Albums such as Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, Abbey Road, and Let It Be not only dominated the charts, but also changed the way the world viewed pop music. Paul wrote or co-wrote more than 50 top 10 hits in the UK and US, including such timeless hits as Hey Jude, Let It Be, and Yesterday, the most covered song in music history. The Beatles sold more than 600 million records worldwide, and Paul is considered one of the most talented songwriters of the 20th century. After the Beatles broke up, Paul formed Wings in 1971 with Linda, achieving great success with albums such as Band on the Run and Venus and Mars. Wings sold tens of millions of records, and the song Mull of Kintyre became the best-selling single in the UK at the time. After Wings, Paul continued his solo career with albums such as McCartney, 1970, Tug of War, 1982, and Flowers in the Dirt, 1989, cementing his status as a successful solo artist. He won 18 Grammy Awards, was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II in 1997, and received the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2010. His concerts, such as the Out There Tour in 2013 to 2015 and the One-on-One Tour in 2016 to 2017, attracted millions of viewers worldwide and grossed hundreds of millions of dollars. He also collaborated with artists such as Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson, and Kanye West, creating hits such as Ebony and Ivory and 4-5 Seconds. At 83, Paul is still performing with incredible energy, with his 2022 to 2023 Got Back tour being considered one of his most successful. However, Paul's career has not been without its failures. One of the biggest failures was his 1984 album Give My Regards to Broad Street, which was panned by critics and failed to achieve expected sales. Paul has said that he had invested too much emotion into the project, and the failure left him feeling defeated. He cried in the studio when reading negative reviews, wondering if he could still be as creative as he once was. Another setback was the breakup of Wings in 1981, when the members clashed over musical direction and finances. Paul felt like he had lost a second family, and he spent months overcoming this pain, focusing on solo projects to regain his spirit. Paul's efforts in his career have often made him cry. When composing Here Today in 1982, a song dedicated to John Lennon after his death, Paul cried in the studio, recalling memories with his close friend. He said that this song was his way of saying sorry and expressing his love for John, something he did not have the opportunity to do when John was alive. Another moment was when Paul performed at the closing ceremony of the 2012 London Olympics, singing Hey Jude in front of millions of people. As the audience sang along, he could not hold back his tears, feeling the power of music to connect people. The pressure of maintaining fame also exhausted Paul. He has said that there were times when he worked 18 hours a day, from writing to performing, just to make sure he didn't disappoint his fans. These efforts, while successful, also cost him his health and rare moments of privacy. Paul McCartney has revealed many things about his married life, especially his deep feelings about relationships and a tragic diagnosis of his partner. Paul has had 3 marriages, each with its own joys and pains. His first marriage to Linda McCartney, which lasted from 1969 until her death in 1998, was the happiest but also the most painful when Linda passed away. His second marriage to Heather Mills from 2002 to 2008 ended in controversy and a public divorce, which left Paul deeply hurt. His third marriage to Nancy Shevell, which began in 2011, brought him stability and happiness in his old age. Paul once shared that Nancy was a breath of fresh air in his life, helping him find joy after losses and failures in love. They met in 2007 in the Hamptons, USA, and quickly built a relationship based on respect and simple love. Paul said that Nancy, with her calm personality and independence, was the one who made him feel safe and loved. Regarding the tragic diagnosis, Paul revealed in 2024 that Nancy Shevell was diagnosed with early-stage lung cancer, news that nearly broke him. Recalling the pain of losing Linda to cancer, Paul said that he felt like history was repeating itself. He broke down in tears when he heard the news from his doctors, and in a rare interview he shared, "I don't know what I would do if I lost Nancy. She was my light, the reason I wanted to get up every day." Paul said he spent many nights sitting with Nancy, holding her hand and crying, trying to stay positive to support her during her treatment. Nancy, with her strength, encouraged Paul to continue writing and performing, saying that music would help them both get through the difficult time. Paul said he wrote an unreleased song, inspired by Nancy, as a way to express his love and fear. "I didn't want to think about losing her, but I knew I had to be strong for her," he said, his voice breaking. The diagnosis, though a shock, made Paul appreciate every moment with Nancy even more, and he was determined to be there for her through it all. Paul McCartney's love and marriages were an emotional chapter in his life, with moments of sweetness mixed with moments of deep pain, reflecting the complexity of a man living in the spotlight and personal challenges. Paul had 3 marriages, each bringing its own lessons and emotions. His first marriage to Linda McCartney from 1969 until her death in 1998 was the most formative period of his life. Linda was not only his wife, but also his soulmate, his companion in the band Wings, and the inspiration for songs like "Maybe I'm Amazed." However, the greatest sadness in this marriage was Linda's death from breast cancer, which plunged Paul into depression and forced him to struggle to find meaning in his life. He once shared that there were nights when he sat in his Sussex home, hugging Linda's sweater and crying, feeling as if a part of his soul had been lost. His second marriage to Heather Mills from 2002 to 2008 was a tumultuous one. Paul met Heather, a model and charity worker, in 1999 at a charity event. Initially, their relationship was full of hope, with the birth of their daughter Beatrice in 2003. However, the marriage quickly became troubled by lifestyle differences and pressure from the media. Heather was heavily criticized by the press, and their divorce in 2008 became one of the most expensive in British history, with a settlement of £24 million. Paul admitted that the marriage was a mistake, and he endured public criticism that left him deeply hurt. He said there were days when he sat alone in the studio, listening to old songs and wondering if he could still believe in love. A close friend revealed that Paul cried after a tense court hearing, not because of the money, but because he felt betrayed and misunderstood. His third marriage to Nancy Shevell, which began in 2011, brought peace and happiness to Paul in his old age. Nancy, an American businesswoman and vice president of a family-owned moving company, met Paul in 2007 in the Hamptons. With her calm personality and independence, Nancy quickly became Paul's rock. They had a simple wedding in London, and Paul said Nancy helped him find joy after his past losses. However, a major sadness in this marriage was Nancy's diagnosis of early-stage lung cancer in 2024. Paul shared that the news reminded him of the pain of losing Linda, and he spent many nights holding Nancy's hand, crying and praying for her. "I can't imagine life without Nancy. She was my light," he said. Despite these challenges, Paul and Nancy maintained a strong relationship, often taking walks together in Central Park or having quiet dinners at home. Paul says their love, despite their illness, is a testament to the power of companionship and loyalty. Another dark side of Paul's marriage was the pressure of fame. As one of the most famous artists in the world, Paul faced constant media scrutiny, which affected all 3 of his marriages. With Linda, he had to deal with criticism that she wasn't talented enough to be on Wings. With Heather, the media constantly reported negative stories about her, adding to the strain on their relationship. With Nancy, although they kept their personal life more private, there were still rumors about their age and wealth differences. Paul has said that these pressures made him feel like he couldn't protect the people he loved. Once, after reading a negative article about Nancy, he sat alone in his living room, crying because he felt helpless. However, Nancy's strength and understanding helped them overcome these challenges. And Paul said she was the one who helped him learn to ignore criticism and focus on what really mattered. Paul McCartney's children were an integral part of his life, bringing him joy, pride, and challenges. Paul had 5 children: Heather from Linda's previous marriage, whom Paul adopted; Mary, Stella, James from his marriage to Linda, and Beatrice from his marriage to Heather Mills. Heather, born in 1962, grew up in the McCartney family and became a talented potter. Paul always considered Heather his own daughter, and he once said that when he adopted her, he felt like his family was complete. Heather kept her private life private, but she and Paul maintained a close relationship, often meeting at Paul's farm in Scotland. Mary, born in 1969, was a famous photographer, inheriting her passion for art from her mother. Paul was proud of Mary's ability to capture everyday moments, and he cried when he saw her photo exhibition, feeling the love of family through each photo. Stella, born in 1971, is the most famous daughter of Paul, a leading fashion designer with his own brand that is loved all over the world. Paul says Stella is a testament to Linda's resilience, and he regularly attends her fashion shows to support her. However, their relationship has not always been easy. In the early years of Stella's career, she felt pressured to carry the McCartney name, and Paul had to comfort her when she cried because of criticism from the fashion world. James, born in 1977, is a musician and composer, but he has chosen to live a more private life than his father. Paul has shared that he was worried when James struggled with alcoholism in the 2000s, and there were nights when he cried thinking about his son's difficulties. However, when James overcame his problems and released his first solo album, Paul hugged his son and cried with pride. Beatrice, born in 2003 from his marriage to Heather, is Paul's youngest child. After a contentious divorce, Paul gained custody of Beatrice, and he spent a lot of time with her, from taking her to school to teaching her to play the piano. Paul says Beatrice was the unexpected joy of his life, and he tried to shield her from the media spotlight. Once, when Beatrice asked him about his mother Linda, Paul burst into tears as he recounted the memories, feeling sorry that she never got to meet her. Although Paul's children are all grown up, he maintains a close relationship with them, hosting family gatherings at his London home or his farm in Sussex. He says his children are his greatest work, and despite their challenges, they have always motivated him to continue creating. Paul McCartney's fortune is one of the largest in the music industry, reflecting a career spanning more than 6 decades and his savvy financial management. At 83, Paul's net worth is estimated at $1.2 billion, making him one of the world's richest musicians. The bulk of his fortune comes from music sales, including royalties from songs by the Beatles, Wings, and his solo career. Songs like Yesterday, Hey Jude, and Let It Be still bring in millions of dollars each year from royalties, streaming, and use in movies and commercials. Paul owns a large portion of the Beatles' song catalog through his company MPL Communications, which manages the rights and brings in tens of millions of dollars in revenue each year. His tours, like Out There and Got Back, have grossed more than $500 million, with each major stadium show bringing in $3 million to $5 million. Paul also makes a lot of money from advertising and sponsorship deals. He has been the face of brands such as Apple, Fidelity Investments, and Visit Britain, each worth millions of dollars. He also invests in real estate, owning an impressive property portfolio that includes a $50 million house in Manhattan, a $20 million mansion in London, a farm in Sussex, and a holiday home in the Hamptons. He also owns an art collection, including works by Picasso and Warhol, worth tens of millions of dollars. Paul has also invested in business ventures, such as a vegan food company called Linda McCartney Foods, founded in Linda's memory. The company, which makes frozen vegan food, brings in an annual revenue of about $60 million. Paul has not been without financial setbacks, however. In the 1980s, he lost millions of dollars investing in a number of failed film projects, including Give My Regards to Broad Street. His divorce from Heather Mills also cost him £24 million, one of the biggest expenses of his life. However, Paul quickly learned from his mistakes and focused on sustainable investments. He and Nancy are known for their frugal lifestyle, donating regularly to charities such as PETA, Cancer Research UK, and Nordoff Robbins, an organization that uses music to heal. Paul has said that he doesn't want his wealth to be simply accumulated, but to make a positive difference. "I grew up in a working-class family in Liverpool, so I know the value of giving back," he said. Nancy Shevell, Paul McCartney's wife, shared insight into the grief he went through, expressing her love and understanding for him. On the loss of Linda, Nancy said that although she did not know Linda, she could feel Paul's pain through the way he spoke of her. "Paul would talk about Linda with such love in his eyes, but I knew he was still carrying that pain," she said. Nancy shared that there were nights when Paul would wake up from a dream about Linda, and she would just quietly hold him, giving him space to remember the past. She said that she never felt jealous of Paul's memory of Linda, but instead tried to honor Linda's legacy by supporting charitable projects related to veganism and cancer research. "I knew Linda was an integral part of who Paul was, and I loved him for that," she said. As for the Beatles' breakup, Nancy said that Paul still felt regret even after decades. She said that once, when they watched the 2021 documentary, The Beatles Get Back, Paul cried when he saw the band's final moments. He said he wished he could go back and do things differently, she shared. Nancy comforted Paul by reminding him that the Beatles had left an immortal legacy, and that he should be proud of it. She said that she often encouraged Paul to play old Beatles songs at home, and that he once cried while playing Let It Be on the piano, feeling a connection to his old friends. As for her own lung cancer diagnosis, Nancy said that Paul was the one who was hit the hardest. She said that when he received the diagnosis in 2024, Paul hugged her and cried, saying that he couldn't bear another loss. "I saw him trying to be strong for me, but I knew he was scared," she said. Nancy shared that she encouraged Paul to continue writing and performing, because she knew that music was his way of coping with his pain. She said that once, while she was undergoing chemotherapy, Paul sang a new song he had written for her, and they both cried with emotion. "He was the strongest man I knew, but he was also the most sensitive," she said. Nancy stressed that Paul's sadness only made her love him more, because it showed him to be a genuine person who fought to protect what he loved. Nancy also spoke of the happy moments they shared, even during the difficult times. She said they often went for walks in Central Park, where Paul loved to tell funny stories about his youth in Liverpool. "He always made me laugh, even when I was tired from treatment," she said. Nancy stressed that their love was their greatest strength, helping them overcome challenges, from her illness to the pressures of fame. "Paul is not only my husband, he is my best friend," she said, expressing their deep bond. Conclusion. Paul McCartney's story is an emotional journey, from hidden pain to immortal melodies that changed the world. His love for Nancy, his affection for his children, and his huge fortune are testament to a life devoted to art and family. Please leave a comment to share your thoughts on Paul's journey. Don't forget to hit the bell and subscribe to the channel to continue following other inspirational stories. See you in the next video. In the next video. In the next video. In the next